There once was a rich Jewish father who owned a very large estate, and he had two sons. And I would say they were living happily together, but that just wasn't the case. In fact, the younger son was so unhappy that he went to his dad and in the most offensive, obnoxious, rudest way, basically told his dad, I can't wait for you to die. I want my inheritance now. Now, I don't know how you would feel, dads, if your son came and asked you that kind of question or made that kind of demand. But surprisingly, this father decided that he would do it. He would give his son his portion of the inheritance. Now, in the day that this story was told, a family's wealth wasn't wrapped up primarily in 401k plans or large stock offerings or business holdings like that. It was tied up largely in their land. So for this father to give his son his portion of the inheritance meant that of the family estate, he would have to divide it up and give his younger son that portion that was earmarked for him. And that's what the father did. And then to add insult to injury, the son then took his portion of the estate and sold it. So now the rest of the family was living on that much smaller of an estate because the black sheep of the family, this younger son, went and sold his portion of the estate. And he took his money, his newfound wealth, and decided that he was going to go see the world. He was going to go party and have a good time and just see what there was to see and leave his family behind. And that's exactly what he did. However, as the story unfolds, we see that he is not wise about spending his money, and he just wastes it and blows it. And just about the time that he's running out of money, there's an economic downturn. We know all about what an economic downturn is like, and this younger son was one of those guys who hadn't stashed away anything in reserve, and he ran out of money. And just as he ran out of money, prices were rising. And he didn't even have enough money to buy any more food. So he took a job feeding the pigs. Now, you have to realize that this isn't just a lousy job. It's not just any old lousy job. This is a particularly offensive job for him as a Jewish boy to do this unkosher job of feeding the pigs. This was like the lowest of the low that this younger brother could go to. And while he's there feeding the pigs, waiting for his first paycheck, with his stomach growling, wishing that he had something to eat, he even longed to eat the pods that the pigs were eating, and yet no one gave him anything. And it was in this condition that the Bible says he finally came to his senses. Have you ever had one of those aha moments where you kind of smack yourself on the head and you go, oh, I should have thought of that? Well, this younger son came to his senses. He realized his father's servants, even the lowest of his father's servants, were better off than he was. So he decided he would go home, beg his dad to hire him as a entry-level servant, because at least then he would have all the food he needed. And I can just imagine him heading home, his clothes stinky and smelly, penniless, and just rehearsing what he's going to say to his dad, because he has been a complete jerk. He has been so offensive to his family. And here he is with his tail between his legs, humbled, and going home. And then the scene of the story shifts to the father back at the now smaller estate. And I can just imagine that every day this father's wondering what happened to his son. Is he alive? Is he dead? What's going on with him? He misses him. He's so sad. He's heartbroken. But every day as he walks by the front door, he looks out the window just wishing that his son was coming home. And then one day off in the distance, he sees that silhouette walking down the road. And he says, no, it can't be. He doesn't have that cocky walk anymore. He doesn't have that assurance that he had before. But yes, it's him. And this father does another surprising thing. In that culture, the patriarch of the family didn't run anywhere. You know, he didn't have running shoes. He didn't wear running shorts. He wasn't running anywhere. If he needed something in a hurry, he had someone go get it for him. But on this day, when he sees his son coming down that road, he takes off in a sprint because he's so excited to see his son. And his son is saying, "Oh, Dad, I'm so sorry." And he can't even get his explanation out. He can't even finish that rehearsed speech because his dad's so happy to see him, hugging him and calling for the servants to get the fatted calf. We're going to have a big party. We're going to have a big celebration, a big feast, because my son who was dead is now alive again. And they had the celebration of celebrations in that home. And what really strikes me about that story is that that's a picture of God's love and forgiveness for us. You see, that dad had to forgive his son of his terrible offenses. And that forgiveness came with a price. It wasn't like the dad just said, "Oh, forget about it, no big deal." There was a price that had to be paid. That family had lost a significant portion of its estate because of that son's foolishness. And yet the dad said, "I'm willing to count that cost. I'm willing to forgive him because I love him." And God says the same thing to each one of us. You know, we're like that son. We've strayed. We've blown it. We've sinned against God. But God doesn't turn his back on us. He doesn't shut us out. When we come walking down that road back home, humbly asking for forgiveness, God offers it to us every time. That's why Jesus died on the cross for us, so that we might have forgiveness. And if we're going to be fully devoted followers of Jesus, we too need to learn to extend that same kind of forgiveness to others. Why can we forgive others? Because God has so freely forgiven us.